Today's video is being brought to you with help from G Fuel, one of the most popular energy supplements on the market, known for providing fuel for the focus of a new generation of gamers, creators, students, and athletes. Made with top-tier ingredients, their sugar-free formulas give you the energy, focus, and endurance you need to power through your daily tasks. And if you are interested in getting your hands on some, either to try it out for the first time and see if it's right for you, or to resupply your favorite flavor and are looking for a bit of a discount, please use the code TheDsIEGE and get 20% off your next purchase, while at the same time supporting this channel and helping me continue to create the content you've all come to enjoy. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested, and thank you in advance for any who choose to purchase using my code. I very much appreciate your support. Without further ado, on to the feature presentation.
Your move. Take your time. Finally. Mine.
He loves this game. I'll never forget the time I finally beat him. But now I'm thinking he just let me win.
You served with distinction, old Dax. We commissioned a portrait in your honor, there, on the wall.
The sentient battle at Hull. I can't imagine. You were awarded the Lua Cross for valor.
Will you follow in your father's path?
Of course.
He will, and his children will. You see, these are the stakes of this little game. Each stone I capture will be another, and another, and another, culled from your subversive bloodline. You thought you could outplay me? I've had lifetimes to plan my defection. You spied on me, intercepted my communications. But I saw your move long before you took it. And so, we come to the consequences.
Father, you all right? Please, do something for him.
Hey all, Siege here, and today I want to begin to take a closer look into the new war as a whole, as this quest is vitally important in understanding Warframe's overall universe, how it works, what's capable within it, and probably most importantly, we are given confirmation on one of the biggest mysteries in the game, that of the Void itself and its personification. That being said, the new war is primarily Ballas' endgame, and shows him off as potentially the greatest adversary of both the Tenno and the Lotus, being able to outmaneuver, undermine, and effectively neutralize both of them, something very few have ever come close to achieving, and all of it being done through his use of persuasion and deception. After all, they say there are two types of villains: the soldier who fights the hero with his hands and strength, and then there's the real threat, a villain like Ballas, who fights the hero with his mind, and in this case, he came awfully close to succeeding. When looking at the entirety of the quest, it's important to remember that it's buoyed by two other significant narrative companions, that being the Prelude to War and the Duviri Paradox, each of which adds a lot of important context to the greater story arc, and in my opinion, are essential parts of the New War story. And given the fact that for most people, myself included, at least after the first time the quest was completed, we're still a bit confused as to what actually happened, be it for a few parts of the story or sometimes for the whole thing. So we're going to be analyzing each aspect of the quest in order to have a better grasp on the series as a whole, and there is a ton to unpack here. The first part, The Prelude to War, is a 3-part supplementation consisting of 1 mission and 2 cutscenes, but due to the nature of when they were released, the narrative events portrayed during the Jovian Concord, as well as those seen in both Operation Scarlet Spear and Orphix Venom, must be included in order to understand the greater overall account of what occurred in the lead up to as well as the New War itself. For today's video, however, we're going to first delve into the Chimera Prologue, as well as briefly touching on the Apostasy Prologue given the parallels we see between the two. This playable mission, the first aspect of the Prelude to War, that unfortunately and perhaps intentionally is not replayable, picks up shortly after the confrontation we had with Ballas on Earth during the Sacrifice quest, with Umbra stabbing the former executive and breaking the control his transference bolt had offered him over the Warframe. This is also the first time we were introduced to the sentient aspect of the Lotus, Nata Reborn, as well as her newly formed alliance, and the Tennu's need to reclaim her becomes the catalyst for a familiar presence aboard our ship.
Kiddo.
I am not who you think I am.
But of course you are. Imprisoned, just as she was.
In truth, the seeds of this quest were actually born during the second dream, within the Void, where we attempt to stop the Stalker from silencing the Tenno from their own rebirth, if you will. This is where we first see the emergence of these shadow figures that seem to appear from nothing as we make our way inward. Curiously similar to what's presented to us as we make our way back to the reservoir, albeit conjured in a very specific form this time. And it makes me wonder if a connection to the Conjurer can't be made from even that far back in the Tenno's timeline. In fact, most of what is presented in this section has mimicked almost verbatim what occurred during our previous encounter with the Lotus when she left with Ballas during the Apostasy prologue. Being almost identical, at least in regards to the specific area, the method by which we're directed, and even some parts of the dialogue we hear, both leading to where the Lotus resides, as well as the same portal opening that Ballas and the Lotus escaped in. Whereas last time we were led to the reservoir by a purple essence and predominantly her voice, this time we are led by a newly active Tenno doppelganger, wearing the Lotus's helmet no less. I think most assume this is the man on the wall taunting us a bit, using our recent loss and subsequent emotional trauma to guide us to a very vulnerable spot, complete with an open door to what most would assume would be the way to the Lotus herself, with the man on the wall having a good old time with us as we walk down the familiar circular passage, mocking our situation with her, but all the while fueling our walk towards the end where the same portal she and Ballas had escaped in lies wide open. And once we enter the portal, we are led down a figurative and literal sentient rabbit hole, directly into an area where Ballas waits, with him looking much worse for wear after our last encounter.
My beauty, my grace, my humanity. Hello? No hope. Only suffering under her eye. But she gave me the gift of life. Why would I betray her? Fool. This is no gift. She stole my death. My perfect death. Such is her power over me, over the devil. We saw what we wanted, those devils and I. A lover, a mother. But now, I know. She is neither. She's a hawk calling with sparrow's song. Huh? Oh. A viper blending into wood. And her venom spreads not into flesh, but into your heart. Those devils. What has that great awakening accomplished with the destruction of potential allies? Don't they see? Love must die, as Margulis did when I sent her to the Jade Light. And the Lotus, just some cloud in the sky, just some shape they imagined. Only the sentient is real. Only Natar. So, tell me, devil, do you understand what must be done? The Paracesis, the sentient slayer. Hurry, take this, the idea of it. It is the only way your war can end.
Even after falling to us through Umbra in the Sacrifice quest, the actual person responsible for the destruction of his beauty and the real reason he will never get his perfect death, he now wants to help us kill the Lotus. Now remember, from the Sacrifice quest, by making a specific choice at the end, according to him,
I am just the stone. She is the hand.
in hindsight, it's an interesting reference to make considering how relevant her actual hand becomes in both the New War and the Duviri paradox. And it makes me wonder if this is more than him just turning a phrase, especially given Ballas' contemptuous nature. After all, from the encounters we know of him, not only is he at least one step ahead of everyone else, he also appears to lack any semblance of loyalty should it get in the way of his plans, as he's already betrayed Margulis, the Orokin, and later we'll come to find this number will only increase. The New War, the Duviri paradox, and if you think about it, the entirety of the WARFRAME story are contingent upon a singular action he initiates, Eternalism being what it is within said universe. So, could this line in fact have been alluding to what would eventually come to pass? It's tough to say for certain, but upon entering his domain, we come to see what became of him after our attack. His body now appearing to have been amalgamated, a fusion of human and sentient. And during the meeting, he, before playing coy with us for a bit and acting as though he doesn't know we're here, attempts to enlighten us on the Lotus and our true intentions. And in the end, presents us with the Paracesis, his own weapon, one known specifically as the Sentient Slayer, seemingly imbued with the death of the Lotus in mind, just before it's alluded that the Lotus may have actually seen us and banished the player character back to their orbiter, but not before having the blueprint for the Paracesis waiting in the foundry, the vision from her helmet ending as confusingly as it began. Now after this scene initially played out, I'm guessing a great many Tenno were pretty confused about what had just happened, and given the benefit of time and newer content that's been released since, I think it's important to consider how little sense this entire scenario makes if looked at critically. But I think the point is that all of this happens so much like a dream that the details are fuzzy at best. With the focus on what we're seeing in the here and now and its implications, the Tenno doesn't really have much time to consider what he or she sees with any type of scrutiny. Regardless if this is a prison or a bedroom, the fact that he implies she can see what's going on at really any point, while at the same time beginning to refashion his own weapon, all the while explaining to the Tenno that she is the evil one and how this gift is the only way to end our war. Again, another interesting bit of dialogue given how this all turns out in the end, with Ballas revealed as the man behind it. If looked at in the greater picture, how the Tenno seem to be able to use the helmet to see what would amount to be memories, the static that appears when she takes the helmet off during the Apostasy prologue, as well as Ballas implying that she's been imprisoned and only then, when he breaks the connection to her, she can seemingly remove the helmet, implies that something is amiss with it. And I believe, if we take into consideration the brief message that appears randomly when loading in or out of a mission, which when translated states, "Void link severed. Reason, foreign carrier detected. Origin unknown. Suspect tracking signal. Reinitiating dipolar connection on novel carrier. Bio in standby for sync check and sync. Motion compensation complete. Selenic lensing locked. Somatic control established. Margulis implantation intact. EVM status nominal. War platform awaiting sync.
Infracells up! Mega thrusters are go! Let's go! Ultron Force!
Initializing synaptic overlay. Good night, sweet angel. Is it too much to consider that the helmet is a type of transference bolt, much like the one Ballas fits onto Umbra? I believe it's implied within the scene that by breaking these cables she's hooked up to, she's then freed of her control, and yet this isn't the first time she's been free of this place. Remember, it is she that picks up the Tenno and places them into the somatic link at the end of the second dream quest, and isn't connected to this room, suggesting two important points as far as I can tell. One, that Ballas has a special control over the Lotus, one that is actually reinforced even more so in the coming New War quest. There is some very real thing that allows him to control her, even appearing to be able to do so while she's aware of it, but seemingly powerless against it, and I believe the aforementioned passage is explaining this to us. Somatic control doesn't really bode well for the Tenno, given that they reside within their own somatic link on the orbiter. And the inclusion of the Margulis implantation intact with the war platform might very well suggest that the more concerning of the two, the Lotus' vast knowledge, combined with the majority of our targets being based off her information, that it might imply everything the Tenno have done, at least when directed from the Lotus, could have been directly given from some other source, potentially even Ballas himself. After all, he even talks about the Great Tenno Awakening here, how it was supposed to be a good thing. Did he have a hand in that too? Also, given the end of the sacrifice quest, where the man on the wall actively engages us in a conversation, it begs to question why this time he barely speaks as he directs us back to the reservoir. He just laughs, and aside from the quintessential,
Hey, kiddo.
nothing in the way of an explanation is actually presented. What's even more odd is that, like the Era quest, the original version of the Chimera Prologue actually had the man on the wall sitting on the pedestal where her helmet normally resides, only to vanish just as we get closer. Now, however, the helmet is still the focus of the opening, but the man on the wall is gone, with only his red essence permeating from her helmet. These two changes are so small that the vast majority of people would never notice this, so why even change them? I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, I would say it's because of who was actually in control during these moments. A theme that will be reinforced even further in the future Era and Maker parts of the New Wars prequel lead up. I also think it's important to look at the dialogue here that was taken from Apostasy. The idea that one, Ballas knows this is the Lotus, not necessarily Margulis as she was, but rather the actual Lotus, as him remarking, just as she was, implies that they are in fact different in some way, and the addition of this specific line suggests that the man on the wall, or the likeness of him at least, is potentially trying to show us too that this is not Margulis. Something that was actually stressed in another quest regarding the man on the wall, the Chains of Harrow.
These messages, they express Rel's suffering. He's lashing out. I should have seen the cracks for me.
I don't understand. How would Rel know about the dream?
Great sentient queen, forgive me. But what you are, what you've made of yourself, is merely drawn from the dreams of these divine children. You are not she. You are not Margulis.
What are you saying? That Rel is a Tenno? Impossible. All Tenno are known to me. I protect them as she did.
I always found this line weird, as it doesn't have anything to do with the conversation at hand. The Lotus confirms the exact thing she says too, meaning she didn't believe she was Margulis to begin with. So how does this answer how Rel would know about the dream? Are characters telling us this to attempt to make a distinction between the two, the Lotus and Margulis, and thus be more easily persuaded to consider her the enemy? In this case at least, I think it's actually more plausible that all of this is derived from the Tenno's memory, but twisted, specifically to provoke the Tenno into a war with the Lotus. And in fact, the new war shows the final form of what this specific experiment would become. You see, the helmet acts almost identical to the Narmer veils, taking old memories and bending them to the will of the person controlling the vision. I think it's even possible to consider that this isn't the man on the wall, rather Ballas utilizing our memory of him to force us down the path. After all, I can't see us following Ballas in the same way. It's most likely the reason the man on the wall never speaks, instead just laughing or saying a line we've heard countless times already. It's the reason everything looks identical to what we experience in the Apostasy prologue, and I believe it's the reason the helmet was left for us in the first place. The original Narmer veil, the prototype if you will, that would be in fact the beginning of the end for the Tenno and the Lotus, as well as the rest of the Origin system, well, for a time at least, until they are somehow...
Time's up, kiddo. I can save them. All of them. But you have to want it. Let's say we shake on it.
helped into getting back into this plane of existence. But that, my dear friends, is for another video. And with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this first installment of the New War series. Unfortunately, there is way too much information to put into one video, so look forward to the rest of the series moving forward. There is so much to review and uncover, so I hope you all will join me for part 2 coming really soon. Thank you again to my sponsor G Fuel, I'll leave a link in the description, as I mentioned before, if you're looking to support the channel with my code, and I very much appreciate you spending time with me to check out today's video. At any rate, I hope you all have a wonderful day today, a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk at you all in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.